And it's back to sorting. And it's just like, I'm at the point now where it needs to be done, but it gets a little monotonous and whatever else. So it's like, what am I going to do? And I've still got more to go. 4x4 turntables. Like, probably at least over a dozen more in there. Now, to be said, I have the originals. I found that one out. Yay! Keep the originals. Missing the elastic. Missing the spring. See if I can. This one's missing. Does black not have the spring? I have that. Oh, this one has a spring. That makes it for a good slingshot. Shoot stuff across the room. This is old school. I say Bruce. I will say that the evolution of the turntable from this original almost octagon to this guy, and then to let's see if I can find it. This base plate with the thing on top. This is a better, because you can put the 6x6 around it. Like, I thought this was better overall than the original ones because you had more things you could do with it. So I like the evolution of the 4x4 turntable. Although I do have lots of bases, but then again, you can do stuff like that too, right? So with the clickies on it. So I thought that was pretty good actually for Lego company to evolve that. But again, turntable. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I really am not sure what I'm gonna do because right now I'm just filling in these things over here. I think I'm gonna get I used a whole bunch of these in some sort of dodecahedron thing that I was creating at one point. Some soccer ball, buckyball concept, and it was working. Except it was a very parts intensive build with a lot of plates, a lot of hinges, and I was using the I'll show you in a sec when I get these things out of here, because I have to get the hinge bricks out of here because I don't have enough room for the hinge plates. So the hinge bricks can go somewhere else. There we go. Hinge plates. I was using these guys, and actually I wasn't using these guys. I was using these guys and these guys. This one here to put the triangles and the hexagons together, much like a soccer ball, and it was working. It got a little tight at the end because it wasn't perfect geometry, but then again, I wasn't expecting perfect geometry, so that's quite all right. But I wanted to talk about something else because it was on my mind. I had posted a thought on the other video, and today I came across it again. And again, this is not a lot of things I talk about. I am adamantly unchanging on, unless somebody has a really good argument. I mentioned this before. If I have a stance in my life, if I have a fundamental ideal in my life that comes into conflict, shall we say, with other people's ideals, and they cause friction, I can be moved on mine. I can be moved off of mine onto somebody else's if they have a valid and sound, cogent argument as to why theirs is better than mine. I can be convinced. People have convinced me of other stuff before, and I do not mind being convinced. I do not adhere to stubbornness of thought where my mind is not changing some fundamental tenets that I may have. And but you have to come at me with a good argument, not just fallacies and fatuous assertions that are baseless and, you know, make you look like a moron. I have found over the years that a lot of people who attack others have issues themselves. I don't know too many people who are very, very sure of themselves and very confident about themselves, like true confidence, true appreciation of themselves and their position in the world, that demean and degrade others just for the sake of inflating their own ego. I don't know anybody like that. I know people who demean and degrade others have a deficiency overall, for many of those, have a deficiency of character, shall we say. So this is kind of not where the actual conversation I'm going to get into. I come across this every once in a while, and I've talked about it before a long time ago, but I'll talk about it again. And you might not see where this is going, because it's going to start off with a tangent. One of my favorite Christmas movies, literally ever. One of my favorite Christmas movies. Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. But one of my favorite Christmas movies is White Christmas. I absolutely adore it. Danny Kaye is utterly fantastic in it. The singing is wonderful. The story, pretty straightforward, but pretty nice to watch. A little bit of a tearjerker at some point, but not really. I love It's a Wonderful Life. And I know absolutely full well, the lack of, what we just talked about earlier, the lack of personal integrity that Bing Crosby had in his personal life. He was, in the public sphere, this wonderful singer / decent man that he projected to the world. But behind the scenes, in the private life, he was an absolute dick. He was an absolute disgusting jackass. He was an alcoholic, and that could be part of it, but he was an abuser, from, again, what I was told from people who should be in the know. By the way, Denise Crosby is his niece, the girl who played Tasha Yar, and she has some things to say about her uncle, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. His personal, not even proclivities, because proclivities is a nice way of saying it. His personal devil on his shoulder, his personal, I don't know, his personal foibles do not diminish my appreciation of the movies he was in. They don't. He's long gone now, so it really doesn't matter. But even if he was still alive, I would still watch White Christmas every year. I would. It doesn't matter about him. It matters that I like the movie. And then people say, well, you know, he's making money off the movie. Yeah, maybe. But I'm not going to stop appreciating the movie because some F guy, some jackass, is going to make money off of it. The car that you bought, I can guarantee you, at some place in the process of that car being built, somebody who S8 people or who has beat up their spouses or whatever worked on that car. Are you still going to buy the car? Yes, you are. And if you found out after the 35,000 people who built your car, if one of them or two of them or a dozen of them are the worst people on the planet, are you still gonna, is that going to affect your purchasing of the car, of the purchasing of the groceries? Like, you have no idea what's going on. But the people say, well, you know who Bing Crosby was? Yes, I know who Bing Crosby was, but there was a million other people who made that movie. And why should they be punished because of one bad apple, as they say? And his personal life has nothing to do with that movie and my appreciation thereof. And I was driving home today. It took me 3.5 hours, but there's a sad reason why it took me 3.5 hours to get home today from work, which is usually a 17-minute drive, but it took me 3.5 hours. I put on my phone here, but I also have on my phone I was listening to YouTube videos, because I can, you know, everybody streams YouTube in their car. Not that I was watching it, I was listening to it. And it was my good friend Sean Ferrick, who has started the ups and downs of the movies, the Star Trek movies, because he did this since I think Lower Decks and maybe even Discovery. When this episode came out, he would do the ups and downs of that episode a couple weeks later. So now there's no Star Trek new shows on right now. Strange New Worlds is coming out soon, but so he's doing the movies, and he started with the motion picture, and he made a video a few weeks back. So I put that on because I can just listen to it. I don't have to watch the video. And he comes across. There is a character. There's an actor in the motion picture who later in life became a not nice person. He was arrested and has admitted to doing stuff that us normal people, us appreciation of society people, us non-malcontents, ne'er-do-wells, would not do and would not want have done to anybody. So, but his point in the video, as Sean Ferrick's talking about, that he understands that some people might be triggered by the fact that he's reviewing this movie with ups and downs, but he wanted to be perfectly clear that his appreciation of this movie and the characters therein is specifically related to this actor who turned out to be not a nice person, that he's going to talk about the character in the movie. And the character in the movie is a good character. I always liked the character. I thought he was the character for what it is was an integral part of the story and needed to be there, and was, that was a character that I appreciated. I don't have to appreciate the person, the actor playing that character. I don't have to appreciate. There has been other people, as I say, Bing Crosby, an alcoholic, an abusive alcoholic. I don't have to appreciate him to appreciate his music. I can listen to his music and say he's got a really good voice. And some people get their tainted on. They have a tainted thought that because he's bad, therefore his music is bad, therefore his movies are bad, therefore whatever is bad. There is an old expression: you have to separate the stuff from the stuff. Now, if you can't do that, fully understand. If you cannot separate the actor from the character, or the musician from the music, or whatever, that's honestly, that's not an issue, and you don't have to appreciate that product because of the person who tainted that product for you. So this is an admonishment of people who, if they don't like this person because this person did something detrimental to society, if this person does something detrimental to a specific sect or segment of society, and therefore their works are dead to you, shall we say, that's acceptable for you. It's honestly acceptable for you, 100%. If you equate, or even there's some inference or whatever, that this person over here turned out to be a bad person, famous person, turned out to have some badness to them that is anti-society or anti-groups of society, specific groups of society, and therefore you do not like the product that they made or partaking in or part of that they made before or even after. You don't have to like that stuff. You don't have to change your mind on that. I'm not here to say you have to be like me and say you have to rise above it and say the product is different than the person who made it. You don't have to do that. You do not have. As I mentioned before, there are some people. Bill Cosby, I mentioned his name. I will never watch his stuff again. I will not. Because I don't need to watch his stuff. And again, I listened to all his tapes when I was growing up. I listened to all of them growing up. I listened to Sunday Night Funnies, which he was on. I Spy. I watched that. I watched Fat Albert when I was growing up, and him turning out the way he did not, for me, diminish the stuff that I watched. I just don't need to watch it again. There's no impetus for me. I saw it and I laughed, and after school, and Fat Albert was on the weekends, and we watched it. It's not like I have to watch it again. I'm not interested in watching it again. But if I catch an episode, I don't think I would. I think I would just find something else to watch because in the end, it doesn't have any meaning to me. It might have some meaning to somebody else. There might be a Fat Albert episode that somebody really, really liked, and they might not like Bill Cosby, but they like the episode, or they like whatever, they like the series, and they watch it, and I have no problem. Or they just cut out Bill Cosby completely and blah blah blah. That's perfectly acceptable. But where I'm going with this is that if you have, Sean Ferrick was very good at this today. He said, or whatever you made the video, I watched it today. He says, I will fully understand if this is triggering to somebody and they don't want to watch my review of Star Trek: The Motion Picture because this person was in it and this person did stuff in the real world that was detrimental to society. And so I perfectly understand that you don't want to watch it. Perfectly understood. I'm reviewing this movie, he says. I'm reviewing this movie. I will not mention the actor's name again. I'll just talk about the character, and he went on to talk about the character in the review, which I think is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. So where all this is going is that every so often, and I think everybody on this channel who's watched me enough knows that I'm a huge supporter of the LGBTQ community. I am absolutely 100% on board with you being who you need to be, being who you were born as, being whatever. I have no ambiguity on this. I am a massively huge supporter of the community, of the trans community. I have cousins, kids. I have friends kids that are trans, are gay, are non-binary, and I'm 58. I have no problem whatsoever with that, and they don't need my happiness for them. What they want to do with their lives has nothing to do with me. So I'm not doing this for their behest, on behalf of them, because who am I to them? Like, have your life. I'm doing this because it's better. That's what's best for society. Support of these people, and because they are people and they're in our society and they should be who they are. It comes down to that. Anything else, it doesn't matter. They should be who they are born to be, who they are fundamentally. So that said, so this gets not terribly nuanced. J.K. Rowling made Harry Potter. I remember I read the first book before the first movie came out. It wasn't that far between the first book and the first movie. I think the first 3 books are out before they made Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the movie. I can't remember, but I started reading the books because I heard they were good, and I like fantasy. I mean, this was childish fantasy, but I like fantasy. I read Dragonlance and the Dragon Riders of Pern and all that stuff. Not as good as science fiction, but I read a lot of fantasy books. So I read Harry Potter and I loved it. I loved every book of Harry Potter. I read them all. After the Harry Potter franchise was over and the last movie was done, it came out, even though JK is supportive of the gay community, because Dumbledore is gay, by the way, just in case you didn't know. it's like, whatever. Some people, and again, I didn't pay close attention to this because it mattered not one whit to me personally, but she is anti-trans. She doesn't believe, I think the term is TERF or something like that. I don't follow acronyms. She is pro-gay but anti-TERF or anti-trans. She has some anti-trans sentiments, ideas, and she's mentioned it in some of her interviews, allegedly. Again, I don't remember seeing the interviews, and yet I take it because there's been no denouncement of this, that this is who she is. And so people are saying, because she's anti-trans, nobody should watch the Harry Potter franchise because or buy the books or whatever, because some of that money goes back to J.K. Rowling and she's anti-trans. I get that idea. I really do get that idea, that to support the community, the trans community, in your way, that you don't want to support an anti-trans person. But I come back to Bing Crosby. I come back to separating the product from the person. I would, and this is a tough one because she does make money off of the franchise. But in the end, I separate the product from the person. It's very rare when I don't separate the product, unless the product is built into the person. The person is the product, I guess you would want to say. But the pro woman, the pro equality, the pro gay message that comes across in Harry Potter, I think is something that I appreciate, even though it wasn't in your face, but it was there. It was built into the story, and the other parts of that story about work ethic and being there for your friends and standing up for doing what's right and blah blah blah. There's the books themselves, and some people might do a critique word by word and find something else, but the books themselves are a positive influence on people. And it was a huge influence on getting kids to read again. Let's not forget that. So I'm not offering excuses for her not appreciating trans community. She doesn't, and I don't appreciate her for not appreciating it. I do not appreciate J.K. Rowling for non-appreciation of trans community. I do not appreciate her. I appreciate the story she told, just like I appreciated the movie White Christmas. I just because I love White Christmas, it does not mean I'm pro alcohol and abusive of wives. Alcoholic. It does not mean that. It doesn't mean it at all. There's not any ambiguity here that I support spousal abuse and alcoholism where you're beating up your kids. But I love White Christmas. And that's the way it is. And so to separate the stuff from the stuff, to separate the product from the person, I think for me is how I justify that. Because you can't go around the world cutting out every product because a person that was involved in the product is not to your liking. You can dislike the person. I dislike the person. I dislike Bing Crosby immensely from what I heard and what I know and blah, 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 what I read. I dislike him as a person completely. I hate that. I hate the double-facedness of it all too, by the way. This is one thing about Bing Crosby that I can't stand, because every interview back in the 50s and 60s when he's on Carson, he's doing whatever, he's just this beautiful, well-composed, laughing, jovially, and I'm going, you're such a two-faced hypocrite. You are, you're a snake. You are a snake. You're an absolute snake. But again, it will not stop me from appreciating the movie that he was in. The Bells of St. Mary's. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Absolutely beautiful movie. I love The Bells of St. Mary's. It's one of my, again, not my favorite movie, but I like that movie. Him and Bob Hope did all those shows back in the day. Watched them all. Bob Hope seemed like a nice guy. I think that he didn't have too many anti-society things going on. George Burns, I don't think there was an evil bone in his body, from what I was told, talking to all the old-timey people. George Burns was very, very appreciative of fulfilling a society. Dick Van Dyke, fantastic. And so there are role models in these industries that project societal wonderfulness instead of being closeted, abusive, bad people. But again, for all of this, no matter who it is, I separate the product from the person. It's very rare that I don't, unless the product, as I said, is the person. So that's just my 2 cents, because I got onto a message board on the whatever, and the person was saying, like, you have to stop, you people have to stop supporting Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling's stance on trans people, and I didn't want to get into it then on that thread, because again, people are entitled to their opinions. I never noticed it before. That they don't like it, And again, I will support you not liking something because the person who made it is anti whatever you think we should be pro for. But as for myself, for my kind of nuance, I do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't. And that's how I look at it. And again, somebody could come along and say, Dave, you're looking at this thing completely wrong. You really should stop watching it because of X, Y, and Z. She makes money off of it. Whether I'm watching it or not, she's going to make money. Like that is irrelevant as an argument to stop watching it. If I enjoy it, I'm going to enjoy it. She already has a good $1 billion. There's nothing anybody can do to remove that money from her. So there's no point in me not watching something I like to watch because she's going to get money for it. Like her kids are going to get money for it. Her grandkids are going to get money for it. Her great grandkids are probably going to get money for this thing. So that's irrelevant to me. I did have a little deeper of a nuance before that. If the person's dead, like Bing Crosby, there's no harm, no foul. And so when the person's still living, there's a little bit more of a, maybe I shouldn't, but it really does come down like Bill Cosby. I won't watch his stuff. And that's because it didn't mean that much to me growing up. I mean, we quoted him, the Sunday Night Funnies. We quoted him all the time. The story about Fat Albert's used to be one of my favorite routines. In nuance, to make this case, I will not watch Independence Day again. And that had nothing to do with something big. Well, it was big. It was a slap that was heard around the world. But I was shocked and appalled that happened. And therefore, I will not watch Independence Day again. And I loved Independence Day, but I didn't love it that much that I can't give it up because there's another million movies out there that, Armageddon and True Lies and other movies like that I can just watch that I love, and I don't have that kind of, I don't want to watch it. I will say I did watch Men in Black 3 the other day, and I liked it, even though Will Smith is in it. I don't know. The other thing on that specific note, which is a little different than the rest of it, is I don't know. I think Will Smith had an apology with Chris Rock. I remember there was an interview where the two of them were talking to each other after that. I didn't watch it. I saw a clip of it once, and I'm going, well, at least that happened. But I don't need to sit through Independence Day again for the 17,000th time. I already seen it 150 times. I don't need to see it again. So I didn't mind. I don't mind losing Independence Day because of what Will Smith did. And again, his actions were not nearly as reprehensible. Well, I guess it was because of all the various reasons that, as opposed to what J.K. does and what Bing Crosby did. There's a scale, but abuse is still abuse. It really is. And so my stance on Independence Day now is not necessarily just because of what he did. It's also because I've seen it enough times and I don't feel like watching it again. But overall, and every Christmas, I do want to watch White Christmas. I'm sorry, it's my Christmas movie, my movie du jour during the Christmas holidays. And so if it's on, I will watch it. And I will enjoy it every single year. It's just, It's a Wonderful Life. And again, so without It's a Wonderful Life coming on every year, my Christmas wouldn't be complete. Independence Day never had that kind of status where if I miss it, I didn't get to see it this year. That doesn't matter to me. There's enough other movies out there that I like Independence Day that I can just fall back on. There's also the escalation of the media and or the social media, shall we say, who try to conflate what would otherwise be, I won't say innocuous, but otherwise would be not as big as it would be. And one of those ones I'm going to talk about is lately, and I knew this a while back, that Reese Witherspoon started her own book club. And if you want to be an author, you can submit your book to her company, and they will publish it, and they'll give you a small fee and blah blah. And the catch is, if there's a catch, you want to call it a catch, is that if it becomes popular and it's going to be made into movies, she gets first crack at owning the movie rights to your book. So you don't. but as it is, there's hundreds of thousands of books in her thing, and 2 of them get made into movies. So what's the chance of that? But she the people who are appreciative of her doing this for people who like to write and make get a book published under her title, and she promotes the books, they make money, right? And then but the movie comes along, they won't make as much money with the movie rights because she owns the rights to the movie. And some people think that's sneaky and underhanded. I have no opinion. Well, I do have opinion. I do not have a horse in this race because I just went to KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and published my own book, 30 copies sold. And I think overall, just by looking at that, she's a very astute business person. And if people would say, 99% of them are making money that they wouldn't have made before. 99.999% of them are making more money than they would have if they went my way of just KDP or whatever else, or never getting published at all. As there was 1 or 2 that, boom, there's a movie. Right, and then she makes it into a movie, and she makes a lot of money off of that. Now, again, I don't know all the specifics. I'm sure she pays the author, and blah blah blah. So I'm not sure what the nuance, if there's like more nuance than that. I just think that's an astute business idea, and she's doing a service to people who want to publish their books. So I don't think she's taking a malicious advantage of anybody. But some people are saying that. They say Reese Witherspoon's a mean person for taking advantage of all these authors. And I'm going, in the end, most of those authors are going to make more money working through her business than outside of her business. So it's to me, it's a no-brainer, unless you think your book's really, really good and you're going to like become like the next author, like Sorkin or something, and you want to make more money on your movie rights than on your book rights. I looked into that one a little bit. I didn't look into it a lot, so I don't know all the nuance to her business plan, and if she has, quote unquote, as people say, she's screwing the authors. I don't think so. I really don't think so. And again, I could be proved wrong in that, but I don't think so. So in the end, I like saying that. In the end, there's nuance to the world. There's nuance to life. There's nuance to literally everything. There's nuance. There's no black and white. This is good. This is bad. There's a spectrum. There's a scale of bad to good or good to bad. And you have to figure out where you want to be on the scale for your own life. And that's why I say, if people want to be anti-JK by not supporting or not buying or not watching or not doing anything at all with the Harry Potter franchise, have at it. Absolutely have at it. I will support you and I won't, hey, you missed a Harry Potter movie. I won't rub it in because that'd be mean, and that's not who I am. But don't expect me to stop my appreciation of the product because you don't like the product. I know, and this is a small little tangent, but it's kind of somewhat related. We were a Procter & Gamble house growing up because my dad worked there. And so we would have Tide, and we have Crest, and we have Zest and Ivory, and all that other stuff. And then my friends would have Colgate for toothpaste, where we would have Crest for toothpaste, and still do have Crest. And so I do not, this is gonna be a fun way of saying it, I do not use Colgate because of my appreciation of my dad and the work that he worked there for 40 years. I do not use Colgate. I don't use Colgate because it tastes like crap. It's crappy toothpaste for me. I've tried it. I never liked it. No, that was a long time ago. And again, I haven't tried it since. But I don't plan on trying it because I've been using Crest literally my entire life, and I like using Crest. So on that specific note, I'm going to continue using Crest. I'm going to keep on disparaging Colgate. That's fine. If you use Colgate, right? I was very happy when Sandy and I started dating, and I found out that she used Crest too. She's a Crest girl instead of a Colgate girl. And then my dad was over the moon with that one. So, nuance. So I did not bring my water down again. I had it here the other day. So anyway, all to be said. If there is a really good argument as to why I shouldn't watch Harry Potter or support or appreciate that franchise as it is, that is separate from JK being an absolute doofus when it comes to the trans community, then let me know. But I haven't had a real serious somebody coming at me with a non-fallacious and non-disingenuous argument yet as to why I shouldn't, because every time the Harry Potter's on TV, I'm gonna watch it. I read all the books. I bought all the books. And I really like that. Oh yes, it's kids. It's not the Tannis and Razlin over there in Dragonlance. I think I got that right. So, but look at this. All same turntable. At least 100. It's like, what am I doing with all these turntables? So, but they're good books. They're fun books, and they got better as they went along. And I really appreciate the story. And we, when the movie's on, when one of the movies on, we usually watch it. We have a little bit of tears when Dobby dies. Spoilers. And I guess in the end, you guys, everybody out there has to make their own decisions as to what, where they want to draw the line between appreciation of a product versus a lack of appreciation of the person who made the product. If there's a statute of limitations on it, I don't know. I also, it's a balance between how much I really like the product and how much I like looking forward to seeing the product. Like White Christmas every year, it's like I can't wait for Christmas because White Christmas is going to be on TV. Versus there's like 1,000,001 Christmas movies out there, and I hardly watch any of them. So I will watch A Christmas Story. Shoot your eye out. And there's nothing wrong with that movie. And as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with all the people who were in that movie. And so it does come down to that kind of nuance where you have to, like, there was not to keep on going about this, there was an old episode of SNL, Saturday Night Live, that William Shatner was host. And Dana Carvey's on there, and I think Phil Hartman, who's now gone, and Victoria Jackson and whatever. And it was around Christmas time, speaking of Christmas, if I remember correctly. And the skit was somebody's having a Christmas party, and the people were at the Christmas party, and somebody's talking about, oh, look at the beautiful moon tonight. Oh, you can't talk about the moon because my niece was driving her car at home one night, and so some preposterous story, and she got in this huge accident, and there was a full moon and blah blah blah, and so we can never discuss or talk about the moon again. Okay, so the moon's off topic. And then, look at these nachos. Oh, you can't talk about nachos because my great-granddad was cooking nachos in the oven caught on fire, and the house burnt down, so nachos are verboten. You can't talk about nachos. Okay. Can I have a drink of water? You can't talk about water because somebody drowned. And I bought a Ford Fiesta. Oh, a Ford Fiesta caused a major, huge accident in the LA freeway. And blah. So they went on and on. Every single time somebody brought up anything, there was somebody who has trauma because of whatever that thing is. And that was years ago. That was a very old episode. And that one stuck with me because that's what happens. That's what happens in life. And so where do you draw the line? Because what happens, okay, so let's just talk about this hypothetically. Somebody doesn't like me appreciating Harry Potter because of what JK, who she is. And yet I say to them, do you drink alcohol? and this is coming from me. So I don't want to go into too many stories, but this come up again. 2 stories. My opa, my granddad, grew up in Holland, and he grew up, and he was born in 1895. So it's not like I'm talking out of class. so he was born into a very wealthy family in 1895. His dad had some coin. They lived in a very prestigious house in Holland, and blah blah blah. And one day, this is how these stories go. One day, Opa came home from school, private school. One day he came home from school, found out that his dad had drank away the family fortune, lost it all. So Opa had, at 13 or 12, 13, had to go lost his schooling, first of all. He had, I think, 5 sisters or something like that, and a mom to take care of. So he went to work. So he's been working. He worked his butt off from the age of 14 or 15 because dad drank away the family fortune to take care of his mom and his sisters. So Opa was anti-alcohol, period. No alcohol ever. So there's that. A very close family member, not directly mine, but cousin's cousin, but we knew because she was in the church, and she was 21 years old. She was babysat us kids. She played the piano. She was the head of the choir. She did a lot of church work. She was at college getting something. I can't remember. She was going for accounting or something like that. 21 years old. Driving home after school, after a long day of school, and she gets smacked, like just completely wrecked by a drunk driver. Killed her instantly. A drunk driver killed her instantly. So you come after me about me appreciating Harry Potter and not the product instead of the person. What happens if I came at you, because I know most people drink alcohol. I don't. And it's not because of those two, although you can go to a psychoanalyst and whatever, that has something to do with it. But I just never bothered. I'd rather spend my money on stuff I can keep. So, people who drink, and I came after you, and I say you can't drink because of the trauma that other people did with alcohol. The trauma, because there's a lot of it out there. You can't go a week without some sort of trauma in the news about somebody being drunk and doing something. My cousin, one of my cousins who was a police officer for 40 years in the Hamilton Police Force, retired a bunch of years ago. He was a lot older than me. But he said he worked in the Hamilton Wentworth Regional Police Forces. And we had chats about that because I'm mildly interested in this kind of stuff. I like these kind of things. I don't know why. I really appreciate what other people appreciate. Anyway, he was 6'4" basically. He knew jiu-jitsu, he knew karate, he knew judo, and he was just a big guy. And so he could handle himself in a fight, by the way, which is kind of neat. He was a big guy. Sometimes I'd come home from school and his cruiser would be in the driveway because he'd stop by and visit mom and dad. But he told me when he retired, because hey, Paul's retiring. So he goes, because I was asking him questions, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. And I said, well, what about this thing? I said, how many times did you pull your gun over the entire career? He says he pulled his gun out of his holster 6 times over those decades. Now, again, this is Hamilton back in the day, not Hamilton this today, but 6 times over that entire career, he pulled his gun out of his holster. He said he's never shot it. He never shot his gun in the line of duty out on the streets, but he pulled it out of his holster 6 times over the decades career. But he did say, and this is, it's not even astounding. It's not even, you can't even argue against this. He says, because he got called in all those years on various whatevers, call-ins. He's watched the cops, they go, you watch all those cop shows, they get called to scenes, domestic scenes and whatever, where some badness that's going on, fights and whatever else is, which again, he can handle himself with. But he said 95% of his domestic dispute calls, where there's fighting or violence or abuse or whatever, or just yelling at each other, disturbances of peace, 95% of the cases over his decades-long career, alcohol was a factor. 95, not 60, not 20, 95% of his calls to domestic abuse or fights or whatever it is, alcohol was a factor. Maybe not the only factor, but alcohol was involved. And I'm saying to you that you're coming at me, maybe not, but whoever's coming at me saying you shouldn't watch Harry Potter because JK is going to make money off of this. How much money does the booze company make to keep on making more booze to not incite purposely, but to have more violence dictated? 95% of all his calls, alcohol is a factor. So again, this is my nuance. I literally, clearly ask any one of my friends. I have no problem, none whatsoever, of anybody having a drink or getting wasted, as long as they don't drive. I have no problem with people drinking alcohol. I have no people imbibing too much. If they want to throw up, knock themselves, it's their lives. It's 100% their lives. As long as they're not hurting anybody else, knock yourself out. Drink all you want. I've been to parties. I've been the designated driver. I mentioned that before. I'm always a designated driver for my friends back in the day because I don't drink. I will not drink. And not because of religion, not because of my life, maybe. But I just don't want to. I just do not want to. But if you do, have at it. Make sure you got a ride home or whatever. But I would have no animosity, no bad thoughts, no anything negative towards you for you drinking as much as you ever wanted to drink. And yet this stuff has happened in my life. So who would you like me to tell you that you can't drink alcohol because of stuff that happened in my life? Would you like that? I wouldn't like somebody telling me that because of stuff happened in their, telling me because of their lives, their dog got hit by a car. Well, I've had that before, but their dog so we can't drive? The product? You separate the person from the product. Anyway, not to go off on that rant. I'm a huge proponent and an appreciator, and I love my friends and friends' kids who are trans. And I would never, ever, ever disrespect them or want them to feel that they are in any way, shape, or form diminished for who they are. Ever. They are important to me. They are beautiful for who they are. They are wonderful, kind, beautiful people. Period. They have the right to be who they are. Nobody else can come along and say they're not who they are. Nobody else should be able to ever make them feel less than who they are. And I'm going to say that until my deathbed. I really am. There is going to be no way, no shape, no form ever somebody's going to come up to me and say that person trans is a bad thing for society. It's not. It's a beautiful thing for society, for the people who are trans. And for the people like us who are not trans, we should just appreciate them for who they are. My whole life is full of people who are different than me, bringing sunshine and happiness to my life. I've had an overabundance of happiness through literally my entire life from people who are not like me, like tons. And to me, it's a shame for somebody my age who has grown up, born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s and 80s, that, excuse me, I'm gonna burp. Gay people were not loved and appreciated as they are today, back in the day when I was growing up, because I would have been very happy, extremely happy to know gay people back. They should have been out of the closet back then. And because the people who came out of the closet later, and I wasn't shocked, but people came out of the closet later because they could, and they are still in the 21st century sometimes not feeling as comfortable to be out of the closet because the society hasn't caught up with them yet. But had I known they were gay back then and they been able to be themselves back then, I would have loved them for it, just like I loved them anyway. Why would my love change for this person? My appreciation of this person that I knew since I was 14 years old. And some of my people I know since kindergarten, I found out long after the fact. But some of my close friends that I know 14, 15, 16 years old and I grew up with, and they finally came out of the closet when they're in their 30s. I'm going, why would my love for you change? My appreciation. We had 3 decades hanging out together, doing stuff, camping and whatever else, going to parties. Like this my friend was like literally the life of all the parties we went to. Like he was always the life of the party. He tried to get me to change my wardrobe. That should have been a clue. but here's me. I'm like Luke Danes in the Gilmore Girls, jeans and a jean jacket. So it's like, I didn't wear baseball caps, but like, why would that change? Why him being gay or not being gay? Why would that change my appreciation of who he is? Like, I don't even understand that. I can't even comprehend. I get that change, and change is tough sometimes. But for I've always tried to, and again, I talked about this, love people for who they are, not who I want them to be. I will say after my parents' divorce, I started really thinking about this kind of stuff, the love and appreciation of the person in your lives that means something to you, that's significant to you. And I came up with, and it's pithy, I fully understand that it's pithy, but I was having a tough time through my late teens on this aspect, because my parents were in the midst of whatever, and but I knew, I never once doubted their love for me and my brother and sister. That was never a question. But back then, I knew, I fundamentally believed that I was not getting the love from them that I wanted to feel, I don't know, good about myself, whatever it is. Not necessarily the best word I'm going to use right now. I wasn't getting the love from them that I wanted. And it was, I think, halfway through my 20s, and I can't remember who I was talking to or whatever, but all of a sudden I came to, it just pinged in my head that when you love somebody, your mom and dad, your brother and sister, your friends, your wife, different ways hopefully, your kids, with all honesty, except for the wife, with all honesty, you have to, and I found this out, and I fundamentally believe this, you have to accept the love that they're giving you the way they can give it to you. You can't demand something else. You can't say, you're giving me X, as whatever X is. You're giving me X to demonstrate that you love me, and to, so you're demonstrating your love with X, and I want Y, or else this friendship's off. No. Now, there's nuance here that if they're giving you X and you don't want X, you think X is bad, then and they say this is how I'm showing you my love, then you might need to reassess that relationship. But you cannot demand Y if that's not what they can give you. There's no way of making specifics to make this any clearer. But I've had friends. Friendships wane because they were perfect, without any kind of badness to them. They were coming into a relationship with X, and I didn't need X, and so the friendship wanes. But if I wanted X, if I appreciate X, that friendship would continue. And I'm not saying dump friends because you're not getting what you want, but this is where things drift apart and whatever. And it's kind of tough to explain, but I had a better idea when I was in my 20s. So it's going to work. But I've always tried to accept the love people give me the way they're giving it to me, my friends and family. without demanding or feeling like something's insufficient by the way they're showing me their love, because I think that you're basically you're being, I don't want to use the word selfish, but it's like you want apple pie all the time, and they're giving you lemon meringue pie. It's like, I don't know. It made more sense when I was in my 20s. I'll say that. But oh, look, this guy's even doesn't have the thing there. I want people to appreciate themselves. There was a not nice happening today on the highway. Somebody, we don't even know, because I haven't watched the news yet. But it took me 3.5 hours to get home because of a bunch of issues. But the biggest one is that they closed the highway, the big highway going through Hamilton, because somebody was going to jump off the bridge onto the highway, and so they closed the bridge and then the highway going underneath it to try to talk them down, and it wasn't successful. And so that I didn't know that till I got home. Sandy told me. So that's why it took me 3.5 hours to get home instead of the usual 17 minutes. And because of that, the traffic got rerouted on a bunch of other ancillary highways. And the problem there was that there's a bunch of accidents then on the other highways because they're so packed. So it was pretty bad out there today to get home. Unfortunately, and it's just sad that that's what happened. And then I think about how we sometimes take for granted the people in our lives, and we don't appreciate them when they're here, but we certainly will know when they're gone. And so it is, I didn't know you could do that. It is something that I think about every once in a while, that I want people to know, if you're my friend, and I might not say it most days, but everybody I know in my life is appreciated and loved by me, because they've been blessings and they're wonderful, and we just known each other for so long that it's very, very comforting to know that they're out there. I might not say it enough, and I do realize that. But anyway, I don't want to leave on that morbid note because like, it's tough sometimes. I will be the first to admit. And what the other thing? I was supposed to be sorting. So that's it. That's all. 57 minutes. Nice long video. Most of us on this channel don't have any kind of, as far as I know, any kind of debilitating issues like that. But if you do, please seek the help you need. There's help out there. I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything of the sort, so I might not be the best person to talk to about any of this stuff. But I did feel the impact today. I was very, very moved and sad that happened, and it put things into perspective. Like, most people on the highway today were just worried about getting home from work or wherever they're coming from, and of course it was a long trip, 3.5 hours. But most of them probably didn't know why it took 3.5 hours. And even when I was driving, and well, not driving, parked basically most of the time, I've always been good that way. I never worry about traffic. If traffic is like worrying about the weather or worrying about the sun coming up in the morning. Shake your fist at it, it's still gonna happen. But a lot of people were cutting in and honking the horns and blah blah. A lot of tempers were getting short, and somebody lost their life today. So it is something to think about, but not too much, because that'll just get you down. But see somebody if you need to. That's my best and only advice. The 21st, I will say this to make it somewhat better. The 21st century is better than the 20th century when it comes to this stuff. It's not perfect. Guaranteed it's not perfect. But we are much better now than we were back 40 years ago in the 80s and 70s. My friends are out of the closet now and they're living their best life. Some of my friends that came out of the closet are living their best life and they're just joyously happy. And I couldn't be happier for them. They're married, they're living their lives, they're doing the camping, they're doing whatever. They're just happy, happy, happy. And I'm so happy for them, as I would be for anybody. So anyway, that was a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't know I was going to go all the way down those roads, but hey, you know what? Content. so everybody out there, stay safe, take care, and I will talk to you soon.